Hey everyone, welcome to the Chinte Network podcast where we explore the different stories and voices of our community. I'm your host Siwa, and in our very first episode, I talked to the humble and avid managing director of Yathar Cho Industry, Wai Phyo. If you haven't heard of Yathar Cho, you've probably seen or even tried one of their many instant noodle products, more commonly known as Yum Yum. Join us as we talk about entrepreneurial leadership, digital transformation of businesses, and the importance of family.
So I graduated '93 from ISY, and I went to the American University in Washington, D.C. to get my undergrad.
I see, okay.
Yeah. And the National University of Singapore, it's actually a global MBA program. So I have a dual MBA from the National University of Singapore and the University of California, Los Angeles, UCLA.
And then that was when you'd already come back to Myanmar.
I went to the States in '93, came back '97. I was doing my MBA distance from University of London, but in 1999, my father passed away. I took over the family business. I couldn't juggle both things, so I gave up my MBA. We started it only in 2016, got my MBA in 2017, and it's a big gap, 20 years.
So you came back in '97 and you took over the family business in '99.
Correct.
And could we maybe go into what it is that you do? What is it that Yathar Cho company does?
Sure. Actually, our company is a group of companies, and we have three verticals: manufacturing, distribution, and technology.
Oh, okay. So what you manufacture is instant noodles. And when you say that these are the three main modes of the company, you're saying that they're relating to instant noodle industry.
No.
Oh, okay.
They're different verticals. So the distribution started out to support the instant noodle business, but after that, we just branched out and we handled third-party products. And we are actually tonight, we're launching our home delivery grocery business on a B2C basis. So it's not actually just all related back towards instant noodles. They go their separate paths. Instant noodles came later. Our company, the main company is called Chucho Company. And that one started in 1989. And we started as a trading company. So we were a commodity trader.
Oh, I see.
We built it from there.
How was that like going back into the start? It must have been very difficult to take on the role of leader for the company with the untimely passing of your father.
Well, that's the point, right? Sometimes life throws you a curveball. Sometimes, unexpected happens and you have to deal with it. So you either fight or flight, and then you can either elect to run away or rise to the challenge. So, of course, having said all of that, it's not just all me, it's my team, the team of my father, and later on my current team who supports me in whatever I do. So it's a team effort in many ways.
And when it comes to the core values of your team, of your business that support this vision and that shape the culture at your company, could you maybe share a few of them, the main ones?
Okay. So corporate culture, right? We have four main core values. Number one, family. Family is extremely important, the family spirit. A lot of people say it's family spirit, you have to have this, you have to have that. But for us, when we say family, we want you to treat it as a second home, as a second family, a second support structure from your real family. So we are your second family. And because of that, we have structures in place, support structures in place for education, health. So when you leave our company and go back home, that's not the end of our engagement with you. We will aid you and help you in your time of need. So that is family. Number two is quality. Some people say it's an abstract thing. Some people say it's measurable. Well, we think it's measurable, and we ensure that quality is built into everything that we do. So we need to ensure that our products, whether it's a product or a service that we introduce to our customers, has to have quality built in. It has to last. It has to do what it states that it will do. So quality is the second pillar. The third pillar is performance. And the reason why we say performance is because I started my career the 1st of April, 1997. And mind you, at those times, business was good. And the main companies, the major big ones, always had some type of favoritism in their favor. So whether it's a permit or a license or some type of preferential treatment for the generals. At the time, it was still generals. We didn't have any of that. And my father at that time, he had the view, which I share completely, It is good to have linkages, but at arm's length, at a healthy distance. So we rely on ourselves, not on the favor of an individual or an organization. That's why performance is extremely important. We need to perform to survive. So we take performance very seriously, and we have a lot of measurements and KPIs to ensure that everything we do and everyone who is part of our organization is held to a high standard. The last one is innovation. Every major development in our company's life has been due to innovation. There is, of course, organic growth, but every breakthrough or every large leap growth or profit has been through innovation. So we encourage everyone to innovate. There is nothing that we say you cannot try. Try before you deny. So we value innovation. Those are the four main pillars of our corporate culture.
Just so that I can reiterate, it's family, quality of your product, performance, and then it's innovation. Yes?
Correct.
And how do these four values help you in terms of decision making? Could you maybe share a difficult problem that you faced and maybe walk me through how the decision making process is?
Okay, I'll share one big problem that we had 2 years ago. That was a huge labor strike in one of our factories. And when we analyzed why the strike happened in the first place, it was a deliberate attempt by activist groups. We examined the demands of the employees, and they are demanding things that are not relevant to our industry. The demands that they make is only relevant to the CMP industry, which is a cutting, making, packing industry. So basically, they're photocopying demands from another industry and placing it on us. So what happened was that we couldn't work. Not all employees went on strike. It was only a third of the employees that the activist groups were able to organize and take away from us. The remaining people still wanted to work. So we had partial operations. But this is when teamwork, family, innovation, performance, and quality comes in. We made the conscious decision that we would not bow to their demands because it is not something that we have done. We have given them fair pay according to the rules and regulations and the law. We have not infringed on any of their rights, and therefore we will not give in. So my team and I, we made that decision. We knew that we were going to take a financial hit, but we also knew that after that happens, we will be able to continue work and we will be able to succeed. So that's where the family aspect comes in. Family doesn't run away when there's a problem. Family sticks together and sees it through. In terms of performance, we knew that there would be some issues because some of the employees would leave because they were part of the strike. But the employees who remained said, "That's okay, we'll make it happen." And they did. Even though some people left, it didn't really affect us because we were able to stick together and work through it. So that's basically how our culture functions. We have family culture, and then performance. Everyone understands that it's important, and everyone understands that regardless of what happens, we have to perform.
So there was a loyalty that was fostered amongst the employees who stayed.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
When I think about leaders and leadership, I'm actually reminded of a quote by William Shakespeare who says, "Some are born great, some achieve greatness, and then others have greatness thrust upon them." Well, which of these categories do you feel best relates to your position?
None.
None?
Because I do not consider myself to be great.
That's a very humble perspective.
It's a realistic one. Because once you start getting those things in your head, you're definitely going to fail.
So then, as I understand it, there are different leadership styles. You have what is more the traditional autocratic leader who probably says, "Do as I say." And then you have the more democratic leader who's more inclined to say, "What do you think?" Given how you answered that question, you are more democratic in terms of leadership?
Well, actually, it depends on the situation. And I have to tell you this. There's no one permanent style of leadership, in my opinion. And mind you, different leaders are needed for different stages in a company's life cycle. So I will admit right here and now that I am what you would call an entrepreneurial leader. I'm not a corporate leader. Corporate leadership is very different from an entrepreneurial mindset. However, what I insist and what I like, I will put my foot down, definitely. But as I grow older and hopefully wiser, I nowadays try and make sure that I get input and feedback, genuine input and feedback from my team. So I always say, before the decision is made, you can argue until the sun comes up, not an issue. I'm not always right and you're not always wrong. So you can debate as much as you want, but at the end of the day, I still make it clear that the ultimate decision is mine. So that goes back to decision making. Are you inclusive or are you assertive? And my answer to that is you have to be both. Listen to everyone, make the ultimate decision, because at the end of the day, you as the leader is responsible to fulfill the vision and complete the journey, not them.
Wow, okay. I agree with that line of thinking in terms of how to be a leader. Entrepreneurial leadership. Could you elaborate a little bit more about what that means?
Okay. An entrepreneurial leader is basically a startup guy, a guy who will push the envelope, who will try anything. He's more hands-on. But at the same time, might macro-manage, but he doesn't really have analytical managerial skills that you would find, for example, in a company like Coca-Cola. Now, a corporate leader in a company like Coca-Cola is very different from a guy like me. I answer to my board, true, but my board and we have a great deal of history together. We're a family culture, we're a family business. So the main shareholders in our company across the board consist of only 4 families. And we've known each other for generations. Now, versus a company like Coca-Cola, where you have extreme levels of governance, what you can and cannot do, and compliance that you have to observe. If you make a decision, you are basing it on hard facts, whereas an entrepreneurial leader makes decisions from the gut in many ways. So that's probably the main difference that I can elaborate on.
I see. There's an entrepreneurial spirit that guides the leadership, and it's not so much about the do's and don'ts of a company.
Yeah, that's probably correct. Because we are interested in gaining market share, we are interested in creating new products, we're interested in growing. I mean, all that is true in corporate, but corporate has many layers of governance and compliance built in.
In terms of market share, how are you doing? Is that something I can ask?
Sure. Instant noodles, we have Yum Yum and we have Shin Shin brand. Yum Yum brand, we control over 70% of the market share. And for Shin Shin, we control about 55% of the market.
Wow.
So we're market leaders.
Then how big is the market? I have no idea what the market is like for instant noodles in Myanmar.
Well, you'll be looking at around 500 million plus packets a year.
Wow. In a normal year. I'm assuming that this year you saw an elevated number of sales?
Yeah, I think this year will be much higher.
Okay. 500 million. Translated to dollars, I'm guessing it's close to like $60 million?
A little more than that.
Wow. I didn't think that
much more than that, sorry.
I didn't think that the instant noodle business was that big, but it could grow bigger even still, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of room to grow. Because the highest incidence of instant noodle usage is actually Korea on a per capita basis, and they consume close to 200 packets per person per year.
What?
Myanmar is still, Myanmar is still around 11, so you got a lot of room to grow.
Oh my! But I would think that Myanmar would probably be closer in terms of growth forecast to Thailand's consumption. Like Korea sounds a little extreme. 200 a year.
No. Thailand is around 50 per person per year.
Oh.
And Thailand is at a mature and saturated state. So the growth of Thailand instant noodle market is lower than Myanmar. Myanmar is much faster.
Okay. When it comes to distribution of the instant noodles and also the new distribution business that you're getting into, this is part of, I'm guessing, the entrepreneurial plan for your company?
Yeah, you can say that. Actually, we started our process of digital transformation about 2 years ago. And a lot of people say digital transformation. What is it? It's not just plugging in computers. It's not just buying software. It's not equipping people with tablets. For us, digital transformation is transforming your entire business model to a digital platform. So in the distribution business, you can have B2B, or you can have B2B2C, or you can have B2C. Actually, the most valuable segment of those 3 is the B2C. The person who has control over customer-facing activities commands the highest value in the value chain. Traditionally, we are a B2B business. We started our packet delivery service, which is a B2B2C, 1 year ago. And now, this year, we are launching our B2C business called Home Express. and we aim to sell directly to your home, which is the highest level on a value chain. So that is the logic behind pursuing these new projects.
And it also makes complete sense in the situation that the world is in right now.
True, but COVID to us, I mean, on that front, yes, COVID has helped us. I don't want to sound strange when I say that, but for our business segment, COVID, I mean, it has hurt, but we are able to bounce back. But our digital transformation agenda would still have continued with or without COVID.
You said that it's not about buying new technology or about putting an iPad in everyone's hand. Then your digital transformation is more about the technological integration of the company itself, or...
Okay, maybe we can go back and see what is digital transformation.
Yeah.
In my opinion, there are three aspects. One, there is a changing market and changing needs, consumer needs. Now, take the current situation, for example. A lot of customers don't want to go outside anymore and buy because of COVID. They're afraid of infection. So the incidence of people who would try online purchase and home delivery of groceries would be higher. Now that is a changing market and customer expectation and need. The second element is that, going back to what I was saying, it's not enough to just give a person an iPad. It's important that the fundamental business that you're in is able to use technology so that you either augment your current product or service, or you create a new product or service that has technology integrated and augmented. So that is digital transformation and has three basic layers. One is business transformation, another one is technology transformation, and the last one is organizational transformation. So all three needs to happen, not at the same time, but in sequence, proper sequence, so that your organization itself is ready to take on a digital business. So that is the transformation that you're looking at. Not just giving someone an iPad, not just giving someone a Viber account or a Zoom account. It has to be the organization's competency.
Right. What convinced you that this is the next step in the evolution of the company and the business?
Okay. We started a manufacturing business in 1997 for our Yum Yum instant noodles. We started our manufacturing business for Shinshin instant rice vermicelli in 2001. We started our distribution business in 2005. I'm going somewhere with this, don't worry about it. So before we started our distribution business, and our distribution business has one very clear mandate. We will distribute our products directly to the mom and pop stores. The reason why is that when we first started operations, we started through our network of wholesalers. It worked. But slowly what happened was that wholesalers, they're a fickle bunch, and we didn't really have proper channel control. So our distribution business was built to ensure that we had proper channel control. That was a strategic decision that we made in 2005, 15 years ago. And that single decision has propelled us to where we are now. Now, we are starting on our digital transformation where we will go from our B2B to a B2B2C and a B2C model. Few things happen along the way. One is that digital transformation and in IR4 is happening. We have technologies that are becoming more and more mature that leads to higher productivity and customer engagement. So we see these capabilities, and we also have a habit in our organization of continuous learning. So we attend seminars and we attend conferences, and we do see that this is the change that will happen. And this digital transformation and IR4 is the tool that will allow us to get a direct connection between the business and the consumer and disintermediate the different supply chain linkages along the way. The shorter the chain, the more strategic value there is. As we were doing that, one particular conference made a huge impact. I was very fortunate to attend the Singularity University conference in Thailand, and that completely changed my outlook, and that really galvanized our resolve that we have to take this leap. Whether it's a leap of faith or whether it's a calculated leap, it doesn't matter. We have to do it because we are as passionate about where we are going now as we were 15 years ago when we made that decision to start the distribution business in 2005. So Singularity University, it only deals with exponential technologies. It's not your conventional MBA university or bachelor's university. They don't teach you those subjects. They only handle exponential technologies.
What does that mean? What is exponential technologies?
Okay. AI is considered an exponential technology because the rate of development is on an exponential curve. It's not on a linear curve. So there are a few exponential technologies out there. Of course, data analytics combined with deep learning will give you AI. IoT is an exponential technology that will give you exponential growth or development, productivity. Blockchain is another one that is out there. 3D printing. A lot of people say 3D printing is actually called additive manufacturing. So that can actually change the entire manufacturing supply chain. So these technologies that you hear about, that is very different from what we're used to. Those are exponential technologies.
It's radically different from the way things are. You would call that the disruptive technology that's on the
Yes, that's a good term.
minds of everyone now, yeah? How's the advance of those technologies going to affect Myanmar?
Oh, we're in for a rough ride. But having said that, I shouldn't be so pessimistic. Having said that, I think Myanmar, if we position ourselves, and I mean, it's whether the government and the public sector and the private sector work hand in hand, that also depends a lot on how we can harness these new developments. For example, let me give you an example. Blockchain. Blockchain can be deployed in the national ID. Cheap. It can be deployed in land deeds and land registration. And it can drastically reduce the number of paperwork and manual labor that is required by government. So AI and AI, drone technology, and satellite imagery. You combine that and you have fantastic agricultural technologies. You combine that with IoT, where you can place it in the soil and get nutrient information. You can revolutionize the agricultural, livestock, and fishery sector. Actually, there's a lot that we can do because we have a late mover advantage, late comer advantage. However, of course, it does depend on how well private and public sectors come together and work on that.
Gotcha. When you say you shouldn't be so pessimistic, I'm assuming you're referring to how these disruptive technologies, despite the positives that they bring, they do tend to reduce the requirement of human resources or human labor, which I feel Myanmar still relies on. And if you reduce human labor, then there's going to be a significant increase in unemployment. And how would that be addressed?
Cannot be addressed because the myth is that, in my opinion, and of course this is only my opinion, and you will have a great deal of people who will give you contrary views. However, the risk of unemployment is present in every single country, the US included. Now, of course, the counter argument is that the new jobs will be created 10 years from now that doesn't exist now. True, but what are you going to do within that 10 years? So, because you have generations of people that will need upskilling and reskilling in order to take advantage of all of this. Now, take a country like Myanmar and versus a country like Singapore. Singapore is a country that is very developed, but more importantly, has a very sound human resource capital base. The ability to reskill and retool for Industrial Revolution and 4.0 technologies is already there. Not just on a private sector side, but from a public sector policy side, they are ready to go. They know it's coming, and they know that jobs will be lost, and they know that they need to make sure that those who are unemployed need to be re-employed and redeployed in other sectors of the economy. Now, take that, for example, as a good example of how we can adapt to the new technologies. Versus a country like us, where even our basic education is extremely weak, and we don't have true, genuine buy-in from the public sector for investments in human capital, reskilling and retooling. So we as a country has higher risk of experiencing massive unemployment than, say, for example, Singapore. However, again, Myanmar is unique. We're actually not that deeply integrated with the global economy. So we'll see what happens.
We're coming to the midpoint of our time together. So I'd like to actually touch on the other topic that was shared. We can go into the personal now, and I do want to ask, when it comes to company values, are they shaped by your personal values? Is family very important to you?
Yeah, of course. Our company, group of companies, is second generation. My father started the company, I inherited the company, and I grew it from there. I started some, he started the main mother company. So the values of a company is usually the value of the founder. And the value of the founder is who he is in many aspects. So yes, I have to say that because we are a family business, because we are not a big corporate that has distributed shareholding rights and shareholders, we are very much a personal values driven company. So let's go to the topic that you asked. Is family important to me? Family is the single most important thing to me, nothing else. I still live with my mother and my two aunts who are not married, with my wife and my two kids. We live in a big house together, and I count that as a blessing, not as a burden, because your parents, I don't have my father anymore with me. He passed away in 1999, many years ago. Think of it this way. When you were helpless as a child, you didn't know any better, or anything for that matter, these are the people who looked after you. Now it's your turn when they're old. It's your turn to carry the torch and make sure that they are doing well. Family is also an anchor. You will find good friends, bad friends, good colleagues, bad colleagues across your life. But family is, in my opinion, a constant. It is something that regardless of how good or bad I have a day in my life on a daily basis, I can have an extremely stressful day and I can come home and I can see my daughter smiling, my wife smiling, my son smiling, my mother smiling, and things seem to fall back into place. So family is the anchor that is extremely important in a person's life.
Oh, I see. That's a very powerful first value to have. What other values would you attribute to yourself?
Sure. I always ask myself this question because I work 6 days a week, full time. My day is typically 10 hours at the office. So I do think of what do I want to be remembered as? And the reason why I say that is because I had a very good example. When my father died, we were not as big as we are now in terms of business or finances. But up to this day, people who knew my father still comes up to me and say, "Oh, I knew your father. He was a good man." And I ask myself, what do I want to be remembered as when I die? And I want to be remembered as a man of integrity, a person who does something because it's right, not because it's convenient, a person who is honest, and a person who cares. A loving son, husband, and father, and a friend as well. And last of all, a positive contributor to community and country. So that's what I think about. That's the personal value that I have. It's not about money. It's not about fame. Nothing. All they always come and go. I've seen that in my life, for myself as well as my friends and my colleagues. But you search for something that is constant. And if I can maintain all of that, I can give to my son, my daughter, what my father gave to me, even when he's not there anymore, which is a good name.
Legacy, integrity, these seem to be the driving force for you to excel and to find success. There's a phrase in Chinese that goes into a pitfall of the family business model, which is that the first generation creates, the second generation builds, and then the third generation is the downfall. Have you heard of this phrase, firstly?
Of course.
Yeah.
I think it's called what? Shirt sleeves, the shirt sleeves in 3 generations?
Right. How true do you think this phrase is, and how would you avoid this pitfall?
I've had that conversation with my wife, with my mother, and we came to terms many years ago. And in my opinion, and of course I don't have any data or research to substantiate what I'm going to say now, in my opinion, the first generation starts, the second builds, and the third basically messes it up. Now, why does that happen? A few things. One, by the third generation, you are used to a life of luxury. That can bring about complacency and downright laziness, more or less. Or because the family wants the family business to stay in the family, they try and get the family member who is not passionate about what he wants to do, what he has to do. So he just demonstrates mediocre performance because he's not interested. He doesn't have the passion, the drive that will ensure that he goes the extra mile. So those are the 2 big reasons that I feel failures happen. So I had this discussion with because my mother is from the old school and she says, your son should succeed you. And I told her, no, And I had a conversation with my wife as well, and I told her why I said no. I am passionate about business. When I went to university, I made the conscious choice that I want to be a business graduate. I want to start businesses, and I want to create things and build companies. That was something that I was extremely clear about. I had no ambiguity on that. But I cannot say that my son will share that same passion. He might want to be an engineer. He might want to be a doctor, a lawyer, whatever. I mean, my daughter might want to be a teacher, because at the end of the day, you can only succeed if you are passionate about what you do. So if I were to try and force my son or daughter to work in my company against their wishes and against their passion, it's probably better for them to stay as shareholders, get a proper dividend, and pursue their dreams. So I do not require my children to follow in my footsteps if they do not wish to do so.
And may I ask, how old are your children?
My son is going to be 10, and my daughter is going to be 4.
Oh, then they're still very young. And to your son, have you started asking him what he would like to be when he grows up?
He wants to be something today and another thing tomorrow, so I'm not going to hold him to that, or to what he says on a daily basis.
But you are prepared for your son and your daughter to take on a totally different career path.
Absolutely. I encourage it. Pursue what you're passionate about. That's the only way you're going to succeed.
And when it comes to pursuing your passion, what is the next step for you? So after the digital transformation, after Home Express has been set up and is running smoothly, what's the next goal?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know what the future is going to be. I mean, I don't have a clear picture. I do know that at least in the next 5 years, the B2C model is the way to go. It's something that needs to be done. Digital transformation needs to take hold in our company businesses, so that we have a fighting chance. That I do know with 100% certainty and conviction. But after that, we don't know. And the reason why I say that is because the possibility, what is possible and what is not, is getting very blurred. Elon Musk just inserted a chip in a pig's brain to see how he can download thoughts or whatever.
Oh, the neural implant. Yeah, I read about that.
Yeah. I know that you're from a much younger generation, so 5 years' time, you might be taking a vacation on Mars. So in the past, this is something that someone told me at Singularity University when he was giving a speech. Our father's generation, the value of a college degree and the ability to utilize that degree is probably around 30 years. For the graduate nowadays, the ability to use what you learned at school is probably 3 years. So the pace of change is so different that I don't know what will happen in 5 years. We'll see what happens.
Which is why you advocate continuous learning.
Sure.
Right?
We have actually in our businesses, it is mandatory that you learn. Otherwise, I'm sorry, you're not up for promotion.
Do you also mandate work-life balance? Or is that something that, well, you just said that you are at the office 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. That doesn't sound like you're as balanced as you would want to be. It sounds like you're very passionate. And of course, that's what you choose to do. But is that actually work-life balance?
What is work-life balance, right? Now, I know what you say is correct. If you take the definition of work versus life, I am extremely unbalanced. I work more, but at the same time, I have a schedule. In a week, I will exercise X amount of days. Well, I try and do 2 days exercise, 1 day rest, and when I get back home. After that, I'll have dinner every day with my wife, and she will wait for me, and my son joins me for dinner every week. My mother and my aunts can't wait that long, so because they're much older, so they will eat by themselves. But every Sunday is family day. I try and avoid any engagements on that day, and I make it a point to make sure that I have lunch with my mother and my aunts. So of course, I mean, that may not be work-life balance as many people would know, but in my opinion, and this can be questioned, but your work is your life and your life is your work if you are an entrepreneur. That's how it is.
Yeah, I think that that's as much as you can hope for, given how passionate you are for entrepreneurship. The balance that you seek it's going to be what works for you. And I think that's the case for every single person.
Sure. Everyone is different. But again, if you really want to make it as an entrepreneur, your life is your work and your work is your life.
I'm actually interested in what kind of exercise you do. Are you talking about golf or are you talking about going to the gym?
I do not play golf.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I'm one of those guys who played golf when I was young and stopped when I was old. So I have a home gym, treadmill, weights, and rowing machine. So I will hit that for about 40 minutes when I get home.
And are there other hobbies?
For me, it's playing with the kids, actually. Playing with the kids is a combination of both things. It's stressful, but at the same time, it's fun. Spending time with the kids. My wife and I will watch some things on Netflix when we're done with dinner. So yeah, I suppose watching a movie here and there could be a hobby.
I think the best way for a child to learn is through play. And the fact that you actually spend time playing with them, I can only see that as being beneficial to their development. So it's good to hear that you make an active decision to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It can't help that after spending 10 hours at the office, you come back and you must give in to the demands of a 4-year-old.
Well, that's the thing. That 4-year-old has more influence on you than your board.
I look forward to the day. I look forward to the day that I'll be able to guide my own child. And so when it comes to your experience, is there any advice that you have to share to those who are new parents or thinking about becoming parents?
Number one, having a child is probably the toughest but most rewarding thing in your life, and the most important one. Number two, a child develops at his own pace. My son used to hate math. Now he's getting better. That holds true for when they will stop breastfeeding, or when they will stop bottles, or when they will stop using diapers. It all happens. And the best thing you can do for your child is allow them to make mistakes. A lot of people, especially our Asian tiger moms in many aspects, and I'm sure there's some who might listen and say I'm a complete idiot, but children need to make mistakes to grow. Otherwise, they can't. If we are always, as parents, trying to make them free from mistakes, we're actually doing them a disservice. So my wife and I have a slightly different view. I see my son, and he's going to make a mistake, and I actually, if it's not physically harmful or dangerous to him, I allow him to do it, because I want him to make that mistake and learn from him. My wife also shares that to a lesser extent, but my mother, for example, she is from the older generation, and she is hell-bent on making sure that my son or my daughter, the grandchildren, are free from error and mistakes. But the person who makes mistakes learns. So that's the message I can give.
Are your kids both on an online learning platform now?
Yes.
Yeah. How is
Yes.
it going for the 4-year-old who I'm assuming there's a lot more mom participation?
Oh yeah, that's actually online learning is more stressful for the parents, and I have to give credit where credit is due. Is my wife. She handles it very well, and the kids, I suppose, are okay, and they're adapting to this. And I suppose this is possibly another new way of learning in the future.
Although I would hope that students will be eventually able to go back to school. I think there is something to be said about the communal spirit that is developed when children interact with each other face to face.
Absolutely. I mean, we are social creatures. We're not built to be alone.
Mm-hmm.
That's the fact of the matter. You can label yourself an introvert or an extrovert or whatever in between. We are still social animals, and we require that social interaction to grow as a human being, as a balanced human being.
Right. All right. I 100% agree. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for participating in this podcast.
Oh, my absolute pleasure.
That was Wai Phyo, Managing Director of Yathar Cho Industry. Thanks for tuning in to our first ever episode of the Chinte Network podcast. If you enjoyed the show, please give us a thumbs up, leave a comment below, or send a message to chintenetwork@gmail.com. I'm Siwa, and you're listening to the Chinte Network podcast.